What if Yoriichi was a present-day Hashira? Yes, so what if Yoriichi, the strongest demon slayer we've ever heard of, we've ever seen, the one that struck fear into Muzan's many hearts, was actually put into present day with Tanjiro, with the other Hashira? What would have happened if that was the case? Well, there's two ways you can really look at it, in my opinion. Maybe you think of it more in terms of many other different ways, but I have two main ways that you wouldn't necessarily look at it. And the first one I'm going to talk about, and it's a pretty simple one, but it's one that most of y'all will most likely agree with. And that is straight up that Yoriichi would benefit or have benefits for every last person that is there. And to make it more in simplistic terms, he would allow many people to undergo a kind of way of learning sun breathing. We've seen that many people have struggled with different breathing styles, but it was said that when Yoriichi was alive and teaching and more or less fighting alongside the demon slayers, that he actually was able to kind of breed more and more sun breathers. And if Yoriichi was actually born, or not born, but was a Hashira during the time that Tanjiro was coming up as a demon slayer, let's just say Tanjiro would be in the perfect place for Yoriichi to teach him sun breathing, and this would accelerate the process of Tanjiro drastically. Now, in the beginning, nothing would really occur, in my opinion, with Tanjiro. I don't think Yoriichi would have any connection necessarily to Tanjiro, or at least not one directly, and I don't think he would even know of Tanjiro until way later on, until after he actually finally meets the one and only Tanjiro. And the way he looks, and the way his scar looks, and all of the above would kind of allow Yoriichi to think that Tanjiro is actually someone that can utilize sun breathing. So he would take him under his wing very quickly and kind of form Tanjiro into a sun breather himself. And this would be absolutely perfect for Tanjiro and would accelerate the process of how strong Tanjiro would truly be throughout this time. Now, with that said, some of you guys might be wondering, I mean, wouldn't Yoriichi just kill Muzan? Maybe. Now here's the issue with the idea that Yoriichi would just kill Muzan, and this is where the two kind of separate timelines would kind of interject and go separate ways. But I'll talk about one version, the main version that I would personally enjoy better, and that's Yoriichi actually being able to defeat Muzan, or at least have the potential of defeating Muzan. We've seen how good and how great these demon slayers are, and how even the master of all the demon slayers, Ubuyashiki, kind of was confident. He was confident that after Gyutaro was slain, that this was the era, that they were going to take down Muzan. And if you add Yoriichi into that era, you would think that it would be drastically in their favor. But like I said, this is where the timeline kind of splits in half. I mean, at the end of the day, having Yoriichi here is a major positive, but it also could be a negative in another way. Yes, all the demon slayers are going to be vastly stronger. We know that with one demon slayer getting a demon slayer mark, it kind of spreads like wildfire. So all of them would most likely gain the mark of the demon slayer. But at the same time, would Yoriichi and Tanjiro and many others be able to kill the rest of the demons, at least quick enough before they go into hiding entirely? So in the first version of this what if, we have Tanjiro going throughout his normal life, family passing or dying because of Muzan, and then eventually, after a long-winded journey, him meeting Yoriichi, actually training with him and being a student, and frankly his top student, underneath the new Hashira, or underneath the Hashira himself, the sun-breathing Hashira. And Yoriichi would obviously have massive advantages over someone like Muzan. We've seen what he was able to do to a Muzan, absolutely putting his timeline hundreds of years back, because he was able to slice through 1,500 pieces of Muzan, roughly. And it's no joke to think that Yoriichi could easily kill Muzan in a world like this, easily kill Muzan now and then. And in my opinion, I think I would lean more to the idea that the Demon Slayers of this era and this present day era would have a very, very easy time of defeating the demons. If Tanjiro goes to actually take on Akaza and face down Akaza with Rengoku, I could actually see them winning that fight, or at least dragging it on until the sun rises and most likely defeating Akaza. And if we're talking about the fight with Gyutaro, I can see that fight going extremely easy as well, with a way more ramped up Tanjiro and a Tengen that is arguably stronger as well because of the Demon Slayer mark, or at least most likely the awakening of the Demon Slayer mark. Shoot, some of these Hashira might not even be Hashira because of how strong Yoriichi is. That Yoriichi might straight up take a spot, but in my opinion, I think it would be better if they have more Hashira than less. I mean, at the end of the day, a Hashira is more or less built off of a certain amount of demon kills, or if they have defeated one of the demons of the 12 Kizuki. So, in my opinion, I think it would be okay for Yoriichi to be added on, even though they're not taking somebody off of the whole Hashira lineup. Now, with that said, and like I said, Tanjiro would be able to defeat someone like Gyutaro, someone like Akaza, at least with the help of the other Hashira. And when you go to the Swordsmith village, you would most likely see a lot of people get slain. But in my opinion, this would still drag on to the point that Nezuko herself would conquer the sun. And this right here would be the key instance to bring Muzan out of hiding. Muzan believes that if he conquers the sun, everything is over. And in all reality, it would be. If Muzan conquers the sun, there is no killing him. He's truly immortal, and he will kill, outlast, and defeat every last Demon Slayer that will ever exist, and there will be no stopping him. And knowing how the demons continue to evolve, shoot, more and more may conquer the sun. And if they all conquer the sun, immortality is right there, and destruction of everything would ensue. But there's a difference. A very, very large difference. Every single Demon Slayer, every single Hashira is stronger. Way, way stronger. And Muzan, in my opinion, would be lacking multiple strong demons. Someone like Gyutaro, who he already lacked in the first place, but also Akaza, a very, very powerful demon, a top 3 in the 12 Kizuki, and he's gone. He is no longer alive, and arguably Yoriichi may have been able to cut down the feats of even more demons in his time that he was living, and the time that he was living throughout this era. Now, with that said, would Muzan take the risk of still trying to get Nezuko to conquer the sun? Yeah, I think he would. I don't think he would fear Yoriichi the way he normally was, because he truly didn't have that imprint on him. Now, even with that said, we are dealing with a stronger Muzan, and I truly believe that. Muzan was injured drastically by Yoriichi, and I don't think Muzan was tip-top shape, and eventually we even see that the poison and kind of the accelerated aging that was eventually put onto Muzan exposed those wounds, those slash marks made by Yoriichi, so he would be technically stronger in terms of durability. But we saw what Yoriichi was able to do to him, and we saw what he was capable of, so it wouldn't shock me to see Yoriichi one-on-one with Muzan, and he could cut him to absolute shreds. And with all the help of the other Demon Slayers, Doma, Kokushibo, and many others would be cut down. I know there isn't obviously an argument to be made that Kokushibo doesn't even exist, because you put Yoriichi in this time, present day, then most likely Kokushibo is also in this day too. But for simplistic terms, let's just say he's still a demon, and that he was kind of part of something a little bit different. Shoot, if it puts your mind at ease, let's just say Yoriichi goes in the future somehow. But that's a little bit more complicated. I'm not here to explain exactly how he ends up in present day. I think I could talk about that probably for another 10, 20, 30 minutes if I really wanted to. But let's just say he is in present day, and if he does take on someone like Kokushibo or other people like the other demon slayers and Hashira, their time fighting him would be a lot simpler and a lot easier. Same thing with Doma, and same thing with the other demons. Now, with all of that said, you might be wondering, what do I believe the second outcome would truly be? Because the first outcome is pretty basic. Yoriichi kills Muzan and it's over. Well, the other version is that Muzan actually decides to wait things out. Now, this would kind of put Muzan in an interesting spot. He obviously has his key, his way of more or less getting lasting immortality right in front of him. I mean, Nezuko just conquered the sun, and it's obvious that he could go for that specifically. And in this second reality, if he did see Nezuko conquer the sun, he would actually refrain. And that would actually have to happen because he already had conflict with Yoriichi. If he has an understanding of how strong, how powerful, and how transcendent Yoriichi is, I think he would wait things out. I think there's an understanding that, hey, if you want to actually succeed, if you want everlasting immortality, well, you gotta wait. Because this guy, Yoriichi, is an absolute monster. And of course, I could bring up a couple other arguments in terms of not having Yoriichi in that past era. Maybe Muzan somehow finds his way to everlasting immortality even before them. Maybe Muzan conquers the sun because Yoriichi wasn't there. I mean, at the end of the day, he did miss out on hundreds of years because of hiding from Yoriichi. Because you have to realize he had to recover. He was absolutely tattered, destroyed. His only way of surviving against Yoriichi was separating himself in over 1,000 pieces and scattering all across the place. That was his way of surviving. And in doing so, someone like Lady Tamaya was actually able to break the hold that Muzan has on her. And that's another conversation as well. Lady Tamaya unfortunately would still have that connection to Muzan, at least throughout this time, but it's not that she was so drastically important to Muzan, and that break would happen relatively recently, and we've seen that most demons do have their separations from the king of all demons, and Lady Tamaya would most likely be kind of shown to Muzan that she isn't extremely useful, not so useful that he should keep her literally at arm's reach at all times. So he understands that there's limitations and he would have to kind of let her do her own thing. And throughout this time, she could most likely do whatever she wanted to do, and eventually when the clash, or really if the clash truly happens between him and Yoriichi, she would finally break free. So you might be wondering, well, in a clear-cut way, what are the two ways that I see this going about? The two main ways is, one, Yoriichi defeating Muzan and actually basically defeating all the demons, and that's kind of an easy way of looking at it because of how powerful he is. Or, the other way, Muzan literally runs and hides. It's kind of a weird way to think about it because Yoriichi is an absolute powerhouse, to the point that he makes Muzan quake in fear. Someone that's practically immortal, lived for hundreds, thousands of years, and you would think he fears nothing, but at the end of the day, that's not the truth. Muzan fears a lot, and he fears Yoriichi, and he would definitely fear him in this timeline. But if Yoriichi doesn't kill him, if Yoriichi doesn't defeat Muzan ASAP, I could probably see him kind of running everything and eventually becoming truly immortal. Yeah, in that second version, I can see Yoriichi actually eventually dying of old age, just in the near future, and then Muzan becoming immortal. I mean, you give him more time. If he doesn't die, I mean, there's a good chance that he becomes immortal. A massively good chance, especially if they don't cure Nezuko. That is a massive, massive issue. We talked about how Lady Tamiya wouldn't be broken free, so there's a good chance that there really isn't connections with Lady Tamiya, who was a big reason why they got a whole cure in the first place. So if they can't cure Nezuko, and Nezuko outlives everyone else, and Muzan knows that she conquered the sun, it would be over for generations to come. And sadly enough, Tanjiro and many others would die very young because of the Demon Slayer mark, and Tanjiro would have to make a choice. Does he leave his little sister here, living forever, or kill her, end her life, end her suffering, and send her off home to her mother, her father, and her family, because Muzan will just conquer the sun and conquer generation after generation if they leave her on this earth. It's a pretty sad but kind of realistic thinking of what would happen in this reality. It's not as simple as Yoriichi really just dominating. As much as I said I would enjoy that version a little bit more, because Yoriichi getting the best of everybody and allowing everybody to elevate and them defeating Muzan and the demons is super cool. But at the end of the day, Yoriichi breeds strength himself. Yes, he's strong in his own right, but when you have someone strong like him show up, more strength is to follow. That's just the facts, and that's how life in many of these animes always go. And Yoriichi would just make for a stronger Muzan, and if you place him in this reality where Muzan runs and hides, they have to kill Nezuko. They have to, because her conquering the sun is the absolute bottom line for Muzan. For Muzan to win, at least in the long-lasting battle, maybe not in the short term, but in the long term, in which demons always have the advantage in the long term. If Nezuko stays alive and he's not dead, it's over. It is absolutely over, and Muzan would take over the entirety of the planet and make himself truly the king of the world, not only the king of the demons. Now, with all that said, if you enjoyed the video of what if Yoriichi was a present-day Hashira, let me know what you think in the comment section below. How do you think this would go? Do you think Yoriichi would just clean up the demons, easy peasy, lemon squeezy, kind of defeat them all? Or do you think some other wild stuff would happen because Yoriichi is there? I mean, I'd love to hear it. Also, make sure to leave a like and leave a sub, all that good stuff. And I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.